Thank you, General. Thank you, General, for those kind words of introduction. It actually is a privilege to be introduced by a fellow warrior who is in the fight to preserve America's freedom as well. I was asked by a reporter as I was coming in, why are you here? And that's the way they put it. They didn't say, why are you here? Why are you here? And I said, it's simple. He's a lieutenant general. I'm a lieutenant colonel. Do the math. Marines carry out their orders. I've addressed many FRC gatherings, and many times in many places, but this is the first time as president of the National Rifle Association, the oldest civil rights organization in America. And I want to just get the uncomfortable part done first. How many of you are NRA members? Good, good. What the heck's wrong with the rest of you people? I mean, what are you waiting for? I don't want you to feel bad because I have good news. Because of the man you see on the screen right now, it's not too late. You can do it yourself tonight. By a special arrangement with the inventor of the internet, you can join the NRA tonight by your phone. All you have to do is go to, do this now. This is the website, nra.org/Oliver North. Thank you, Al Gore. By the way, there's more good news. For those of you who are already members, Al Gore has also given us permission for you to sign up your family members, your neighbors, your coworkers, and your friends, all on that same website. You see, my mission, one of my many now in the NRA, is to double the membership between now and 2020. So that's the website. Please do that if you're not already a member. Now, enough fun. Why am I really here? It's very simple. We are, I believe, on the precipice of the most important election, political contest, whatever one wants to call it, in my lifetime, and I was born when FDR was president. I'm convinced that our God-given freedoms, enshrined in our Constitution as the Bill of Rights, are at greater risk today than at any time since the war that pitted Americans against one another in what history books call the Civil War. That contest was anything but civil, but it resolved forever that human beings could never again be subject to bondage in this country. It also settled forever that we the people, the first three words of that Constitution to which General Boykin and I took an oath to support and defend, shall forever determine, we the people, shall determine how we are governed. That very concept of how we're going to be governed is now being challenged by powerful elites who aim to strip away our God-given freedoms that are enshrined in that Bill of Rights. At a time such as this, the NRC and the FRC need to be allies for the good of our country. We share a common heritage. Both the NRA and the FRC are advocacy organizations with the goal of securing the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. That's in that document, too. We're both the targets of the new progressive movement, the hard left of American politics, those who deride us as deplorables and make fun of us for clinging to our Bibles and our guns. Let me show you a few more of your 5 million plus NRA allies in this fight. There's Americans like Mark Robinson, who on his own went to a Greensboro, North Carolina city council meeting and took a stand for what's right.
I'm a law-abiding citizen who's never shot anybody, never committed a serious crime, never committed a felony. But it seems like every time we have one of these shootings, nobody wants to put the blame where it goes, which is at the shooter's feet. You want to put it at my feet. I felt like I needed to say something for all the people out there that I just spoke about, the people who have come together, who are together, who feel unified. That majority of people who obey the law, and work hard every day, and are just tired of people trying to pull them apart and pull them in all different directions. I think there's millions of me across the country, and I'm hoping that each one of those people will go out and tell these politicians we're not going to take it, and we're going to stand up for our rights, and we're going to hold on to them. Anyone who is concerned with holding on to the Second Amendment. I absolutely think they should join the NRA.
Or there's the business owner in Los Angeles. Oh, we're just getting going, folks. The business owner in Los Angeles, a political refugee from Iran who truly knows the value of individual liberty.
Second Amendment in the U.S. Constitution is very personal for me. When the people came to the streets and demonstrated against the regime, demanding their own rights, they get cracked on by the violence of the government. The people get tortured, executed, assassinated, hanging the people in the streets. These things I saw with my eyes. That's part of my experience. Just imagine if you get successful, you remove your Second Amendment from your Constitution completely. But who knows, in 20 years, 25 years, maybe situation get changed. But any single person should have a right to defend themselves and defend their families.
And then there's an American hero who knows firsthand what it's like to confront real evil and respond the only way possible to save the lives of his neighbors.
My daughter came into the bedroom and she said, "Dad, there's a man in black tactical gear shooting up the Baptist church." Every one of those shots to me represented one of my neighbors, one of my friends. And I ran as fast as I could. Immediately, he came out of the church shooting at me. He hit the truck in front of me, hit the car behind me, hit the house behind me. And I hit him. He had an AR-15, but so did I. And it's not the gun, it's the heart. It's a matter of the heart. I'm not the bravest man in the world or anything, but I was here. I was here and I could do something. And I had to do something.
And then there's the mom whose husband is deployed overseas, and she has to protect her children and herself from those who would break into their home.
I do know what it's like to be vulnerable. I know what it's like to feel like you can't protect your children or yourself. And it's terrifying when you have a spouse, whether it be husband or wife, that's serving overseas thousands of miles away, and you're the only one there to stand up for yourself, to stand up for your home, for your little kid that's right there next to you. I support the Second Amendment because of that. I support the NRA because they support my right to protect my kids. Everybody has a right to life, and you have the right to protect that. And nobody has the right to take it away from you.
You're not going to see those real Americans on MSNBC or 60 Minutes because they don't want those voices heard. They don't fit that progressive agenda. Here's something else you're not going to hear or read about or see on the so-called mainstream media. Everyone understands the importance of securing our public places. That's why every major corporate campus and office tower, every sporting event, celebrity award show, and government building, all of it is protected by multiple layers of security. But when it comes to our most precious resource, not gold or oil or precious jewels, our children, we utterly fail to protect them at school every single day. Each day that goes by, our banks and businesses are better protected than our children. That's a national outrage. NRA's School Shield program has already made world-class security resources available to hundreds of American schools. It's free of politics, and it's free of charge. If your child's school isn't protected, ask them to call School Shield today. We're the National Rifle Association of America, guardians of our school children and freedom's safest place. There are more than 130,000 public and private elementary, middle, and high schools in the United States. And according to surveys not taken by the NRA, but others, 65% of those schools have recorded one or more incidents of violent criminal behavior. And yet, as I pointed out in that brief introduction, our banks, this building, us here, sports stadiums are better protected than our schools from attack. That ought to be unacceptable to all of us. But the fact is, too often, it's been reported that other things are more important than our kids. We recently had a story here in Washington, D.C., for those of you who have the pleasant experience of not having to come to work here, that's most of you I addressed, that the National Zoo, right down the hill from where we are right now, is considering extra security measures to protect its resident animals and guests at the zoo. Aren't our kids a little bit more important than zoos? Apparently not. So what we have done is taken on the mission of providing vulnerability assessments and training to schools and community law enforcement to save our children from the mayhem of madmen bent on senseless murder. The NRA School Shield program is available absolutely free to schools and school districts nationwide. And here's where there's some synergy. The alliance that I mentioned between FRC and NRA can be truly life-saving. When you go home from this summit, do what General Boykin and I would once call a recon. If you have a child or grandchild in a school that needs discreet, professional help defining and designing a security solution, ask the principal or school board to contact NRA School Shield. There's the logo on the screen. If the school can't afford the necessary security upgrades, NRA provides grants to help. Yeah, that's right, free money from the NRA. There's no other political group, there's no other media conglomerate, there's no Hollywood mogul who's ever offered anything like this. There's no consortium that does it. We do it, the hated NRA. Now, of course, you're not going to hear about that from the national news media. That good news doesn't fit their agenda of demonizing the NRA. You've just heard voices from those in the heartland. They're not from New York or from Hollywood or the echo chamber of Washington, D.C. Those folks in that crowd couldn't care less about Americans who value their personal freedom, who wish to exercise their God-given individual rights, to worship as we please, to stand for the sanctity of human life and marriage, or to keep and bear arms. Sadly, those rights are now suddenly vulnerable in this second decade of the 21st century. All the freedoms that we hold dear are quite literally at stake in just 46 days. The enemies of our freedom are highly organized, abundantly funded, and thanks to a super rich group of political elites hell-bent on buying this election to serve their own agenda. This self-serving cabal of billionaires and their pet politicians have conspired to permanently transform America into a socialist state. They tried their best to win the White House in 2016, and ever since they've done everything possible to undo that election. Their goal is a clear and present danger. They have announced their plan: seize power in the House of Representatives in Washington, capture the U.S. Senate, impeach our president, then crush the NRA, and take the White House 2 years from now, and then repeal the Second Amendment. That's their agenda. They've declared it. They've stated it. Time to pay attention. It's an all-out attack against us all and our freedom, not with bombs or bullets, but with billions of dollars buying ballots. You know their names: George Soros, Michael Bloomberg, Tom Steyer, and their lapdog New York Governor Andrew Cuomo. He's the genius who recently claimed, "We're not going to make America great again. It was never that great." When he made that statement, I was at the American Cemetery at Normandy with members of the NRA, Freedom Alliance, and wounded veterans of this war now. We were visiting Normandy, the beaches where we won the contest on the 6th of June, 1944. We were stunned, literally taken aback. More stunning still is not one of these anti-freedom, billionaire socialist cabal distanced themselves from Governor Cuomo's pathetic rejection of American values. Apparently, acknowledging Americans' greatness, respecting the sacrifices of those who've bled on behalf of our country, apparently for them, that's a non-starter. For them, standing and placing our hands over our heart when the flag passes or the national anthem is played is somehow irrelevant. It doesn't matter anymore. But to those of us who have buried our friends, as the general and I have, and seen them in the last moments before they're put in the earth with that flag draping their coffin, it still matters to us. That's why we're running this ad right now. When you take a knee during our national anthem, you disrespect the men and women who lost their limbs so you could spend your Sundays playing games. When you dishonor our flag, you turn your back on the families of heroes serving on the front lines whose sacrifices make it possible for cameras to focus on your disgraceful protests. And when you teach children that our police are the enemy, you turn your back on the very law enforcement that keeps your stadium safe. We fight for the First Amendment as much as the Second, but while you use it disgracefully, we use it to tell the truth. We stand for our country. We stand for our veterans and our military. We stand for our law enforcement. And we stand for our flag, because we're still freedom's safest place. Thank you. George Soros has pumped tens of millions of dollars into far-left political candidates and causes. Michael Bloomberg has vowed to spend $80 million in this election, and Tom Steyer says he's spending at least $110. Their spoken aim is to plant Democrat socialists throughout our government and turn America into a gun-free socialist utopia. With this level of financial support, the far left has been energized. We stand in their way, the FRC, the NRA, and others who believe in our God-given liberties. And it's the only way we're going to stop these big spending liars, and the only way possible is one way, with votes. 2 years ago, it was the NRA and God-fearing patriots like you that helped elect one of the most openly pro-freedom presidents in history. During the past 2 years, President Trump has demonstrated his strong commitment to protecting our freedom, especially by nominating pro-freedom judges with a strong sense of values to sit on the Supreme Court. His support for our freedom has driven our opponents in the so-called mainstream media absolutely nuts. They've protested, ranted, raved, and they've organized like never before to take over the U.S. House and Senate. If they win the House, they will spend the next 2 years trying to impeach the president and seize the White House in 2020. We, the people, are supposed to govern this country, not wealthy oligarchs and their media pals that denigrate our values and strip away our freedoms. The battle lines are clear. The fight is joined. Their last-minute smear against Judge Kavanaugh in an attempt to block his confirmation is just one more indication of their tactics. But we get the last word. We vote. We vote. We better. Every single vote by you and other Americans like us can make all the difference in preserving our freedom for our progeny. I've got skin in the game. I've got those 17 grandkids. They ought to grow up with the same kind of opportunities that you and I have had. And it won't happen if those people take charge. For the next 46 days, we have 2 missions, every one of us. Pray for our nation. Please pray for our nation. And second, become a recruiter, just like in the Marines or the Army. Go out there and find 1 or at least 10, if you can, who will join us in this fight and go to the polls and vote to take a stand for freedom. We are the land of the free because we're still the home of the brave and committed to the future of this great land. God bless you for being here right now.